I let my ex use my property for her wedding, and her new fiancé found out we dated and wants me uninvited. One of my best friends, who we'll call Carla, is getting married soon. It's only meant to be a small backyard kind of wedding, but they've been planning it for a few months now, and originally it was supposed to be on my property. They wanted it because it's private, has lots of open space for the reception, a nice view, and the house could be used for them to get ready and stuff. Of course, I said yes, and she and her fiancé, Rick, were very happy. The thing is, Carla and I do have a history. We went out on and off in college, but decided to stay friends. Then I met my wife, we got married, Carla met Rick, and now here they are. Now, my wife knows that I went out with Carla back in college, and she didn't care. Carla still went to our wedding and everything. I never knew if Rick was told or not. It's not my relationship, therefore not my business to say anything, so I never did. Rick apparently found out recently and was not in the best way about it. Not sure how, but from what I heard from friends, it's that one mutual friend told him, no idea why, that we used to date. Not only that, but apparently Carla said a couple of years ago she was still in love with me when she was already dating Rick. I don't have actual confirmation on that last part, it's just what I was told. All Carla's told me is that Rick was told about our past and he's angry at her for never saying anything up till now. It's become quite a drama, and I didn't hear from her for over a month until just now. She's told me they're going to couples counseling and that the wedding is still on, but Rick requested that I not attend it. It sucks, but I totally get why he wouldn't be comfortable with me there. Then I asked the obvious question, where are they going to hold the wedding now then? To my great surprise, she said they still want it at our place. Rick said so too, and in my mind I'm saying to myself, he doesn't want the guy who dated his fiancée years ago at the wedding, but still wants the wedding at this guy's house? My wife and I are expected to just not be at our home that weekend? I told Carla no. They're going to have to find some other place, since we're not going to simply leave our home to them for the weekend. And it's not just for safety reasons, it just doesn't make sense. Rick doesn't want me around because he's not comfortable, but is comfortable enough to have the wedding at my house? They really want their wedding here, though, and because of that I've been bugged by not only her, but also Rick and some friends who think I'm being a petty jerk for not letting them have the wedding here anymore. Honestly, don't think that I am. It just doesn't make any sense at all to leave our own place for a wedding we're no longer welcome at and leave our home totally vulnerable. Still, I'm being accused of sabotaging their wedding, and Rick believes it's the least I can do after everything. Am I the jerk? The least you can do after everything? What? None of this is your fault. People date, and some of them are friends afterwards. It sounds like Carla held onto something for a while afterwards, maybe, but honestly that's not your fault either, and you shouldn't be evicted from your place for a weekend because of one man's insecurities anyway. Would him knowing about your history with Carla beforehand have changed anything? I agree that it might have been something she should have brought up earlier, but again, that's far from your fault. It just feels like old Rick here is directing the anger and insecurity at the wrong person. You're doing them both a massive solid by keeping them from having to foot out a massive bill for a wedding venue, and you're having a host of people over to boot. That's far and above the least you can do already. Get real, Rick. Am I the jerk for evicting him and his 13-year-old daughter? My boyfriend, 34, been dating for 3 years, has just moved into my 3-bedroom home 5 months ago. I'm a 32-year-old female. This home has been in my family for the past 70 years. I have a 5-year-old son. My boyfriend has a 13-year-old daughter. I made sure I moved out all of my stuff from my office and put it in the loft so she could have her own bedroom. I think it was about a month into him living here that his daughter wanted to move in with us full-time as she doesn't have her own bedroom at her mum's place. I was completely fine with this. Anyway, I started running into a lot of problems not even a week after she moved in full-time. She became really entitled and demanding, like demanding that my son trade rooms with her because it has a bigger closet, and she pitched a huge fit when I said no, or demanding we buy her expensive clothes or makeup because I'm a real estate agent and apparently I have loads of money. Call me crazy, but I'm not about to drop $120 on a pair of ripped-up jeans or drop $200 on 3 pieces of makeup. Her dad works, but his income is significantly less than mine, so she really just expected me to be the one who spoils her rotten. Or when she pushes her plates of food away, saying, "I'm not eating that, but you can cook me something else." I can deal with her childish tantrums and slamming doors, but she's now started to put holes in my wall, and my boyfriend makes excuses saying he used to do the same thing and she'll grow out of it. She torments my son. If he says anything to her, she literally always responds with, "Oh, you're talking to me? Swap rooms with me and I'll think about responding." Her dad literally never attempts to correct her behavior, and I'm told I'm being too harsh if I do. The tip of the mountain for me was that 2 weeks ago there was a foul smell coming from her room, so I asked her to clean it because you couldn't see the floor. She said, no, it's my room, so I don't see why you have any say on how I treat my personal space." Her father actually agreed with her. 3 days later, the smell had become so bad that I lost it. I told her to clean it or she was moving out. This was after I saw at least 6 used menstrual pads thrown throughout her room, as well as half-eaten food and moldy drink cups. She started crying and saying I'm treating her like she's Cinderella and I'm acting like an evil stepmom. I told my boyfriend either he handles this or they're both gone. He clearly didn't believe me because he told me that I needed to lighten the fluff up because his daughter is having a rough time transitioning and being away from her mom. I gave it a week, nothing changed. I went and got an eviction notice drawn up and gave them 30 days to vacate my property and told him he's lucky I'm not suing for damages. He says I'm a jerk for throwing away 3 years because I, quote, can't handle not having my own way. Am I the jerk? What on earth? No, not the jerk. And I'd say it's a damn good thing you had the daughter stir up this conflict between you, because it sounds like you might be about to dodge a bullet by getting this guy out of your life. As usual, the daughter is a kid, she might grow out of it, but her terrible behavior is running rampant because her dad just seems completely unwilling to step in and contribute to a functioning, respectful household. A household that he's moving into and doesn't own, by the way. You'd think he might be more careful out of a sense of self-preservation, if nothing else. Telling you to lighten the F up about his daughter's lack of respect for your place is a real clear sign that you don't owe him anything. Get them out, hope that she learns from her dad's mistakes, and move on. Am I the jerk? I got mad at my wife because she caused me to fail an important interview. My wife and I have been married for 3 years. She's 6 months pregnant. I've been looking for a job with better pay since my wife said that she wanted to be a stay-at-home mum after the birth. Today I had this interview for a position at a very good IT company, which would be paying me triple my current salary. There were a lot of measures taken to prevent malpractice. I wasn't allowed to look anywhere but the screen, and the test was conducted on an online platform. I'd told my wife numerous times before the exam about the strict invigilation. Just 15 minutes before the test started, my wife started knocking on my study door and calling out my name, saying she wanted me to open a jar. I ignored her because I'd be disqualified from the interview if I didn't look anywhere else or even spoke. I figured she'd get the hint that I couldn't talk. But she didn't. She yelled at me, calling me a massive jerk, and went on to talk to her friends on call. It didn't stop at the calls. She played loud music for her online yoga class. It was extremely distracting and I made a lot of mistakes on the exam. It was a multiple-choice, questions-based test, so I got the results immediately, and as expected, I'd miserably failed it. I was livid at my wife. This was the 5th interview that she had ruined like this. I told her that I give up on trying to make her life easier, and that I'm not ready to go looking for any more jobs since she doesn't even want to maintain silence during important interviews. I told her to start working again after the birth and that I'm okay paying for a nanny and babysitter. She said that I'm being unreasonable and expecting perfect silence at home. So, am I the jerk? What the actual frick? No, not if this was the 5th interview she'd tanked this way. You're not the jerk. This sounds like she's deliberately trying to sabotage your interview. I have nothing but sympathy for the author. If it was just a bad girlfriend, you guys can have whatever massive row you need to have in order to decide whether you stay together or get the frick out. But you, my friend, are tied to that woman. You've got a kiddo on the way, and this is not a great way to start out a family. From the limited info we've got, your wife doesn't sound super reasonable. I hope it gets better. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Bully grabs a girl and gets his butt handed to him, and entitled parents try to expel the girl. So there's this very small girl. At the time, she was in 8th grade, and her dad was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor. I don't know if that's what you call his job title, like he has his own school and everything. And as we'll find out, Dad has obviously taught her how to defend herself. One day, a bully, male and in the 12th grade, is getting a bit weird and starts trying to flirt with her, and she's very uncomfortable. Creepy bully persists, like he is all over this girl for at least 5 minutes. He then grabs her butt, and I don't think anyone has ever hit a combo move so quickly. This girl pulled off what has to be one of the fastest knockouts ever. She kicks him downstairs and follows with an uppercut, which flowed back into an atomic elbow. This grade 12 guy was out like a light in less than half a second. Anyways, the parents of the bully start trying to take action and get this girl in as much trouble as possible for beating up their son. They called a meeting with the principal and the girl's parents. The principal sided with them and decided that the girl should leave their school. Dad is furious, but the school doesn't budge. Eventually, Dad says, "My daughter is staying at the school and that sicko is leaving. He can either leave quietly and immediately or we can escalate this. We'll sue for assault and come after both the school and the family." The school waived all punishment the girl had been given and expelled the bully on the spot. That dad couldn't have been prouder of his daughter for knocking out a creep who was literally 3 times her size. Yeah, the difference between 8th grade girl and 12th grade boy in terms of size has got to be pretty big, right? Honestly, I wish I could have seen this. It was probably some Black Widow taking down Hulk stuff in terms of technique and size, which I can't even imagine that. Also, I can't imagine the bully would be too sad in the long run about switching schools. He got his butt kicked by a literal little girl after all. That can't be great for an aspiring king of the playground. It's been a burden on us to keep paying your salary. For the past 6.5 years, I've been employed by my dad in the family business. It's an office job with just the 2 of us slaving away. Or, when there's no work, sitting on our hands and waiting. The entitled parents in this story is both of my ungrateful parents, who've been taking advantage of me long before I started working for them. And now they've done it. I've run out of fluffs to give, and I'm looking for another job without them knowing. Since I've started working for them, they've done nothing but flaunt their money at me, promises of riches if I work hard enough, and that I'd become a partner and take over the business someday. But it's been an absolute nightmare. At the same time, they've been benefiting greatly from having me work with them. I get to watch the office, deal with clients, do any work that comes in, and my dad, for the first time since he started the business, is free to do as he pleases. He can now run off and go shopping with my mum, entertain guests, and just sit around and watch TV when his favorite sport is on. Freedoms he hasn't known for years. Whilst if I have a panic attack or ask to stay away from home, if I'm sick or if it's too dangerous to drive, he'd call me a baby, tell me to get over myself and get back to work. I've been belittled, threatened, shouted at, and told my concerns weren't real the whole time, with small gaps of peace that never really last that long. When I first started working, I was living at home, but after getting threatened to get fired and kicked out for something completely unrelated to the job, I moved. They were shocked and did everything to convince me not to move away from home. I did anyway and moved in with my best friend that they hate. Since moving out, I've been struggling and been living paycheck to paycheck, with my small savings dwindling. This year, I didn't get a raise, just a bullcrap bonus system that lets my dad decide how much extra money I'm worthy of that month. I can't be the only one that thinks that's bullcrap. Anyways, last week while I've been talking to my mum about my apartment, wanting to raise the rent by 9% on me, I live in a state with no rent control, and how I'm not sure how me and my roommate will handle it if we can't get the renters to give us a better deal. I mentioned that my costs would have been easier if I'd gotten a raise like every other year I've worked for them. Mum lost her crap and started yelling at me, saying that they'd have to go into their savings and that they were really struggling with no work coming in. I said, "I'm sorry, I can't give you sympathy because I've had to worry about money for food and gas." She told me that if I wasn't their daughter, they would have fired me because they couldn't justify paying me. We used to have 60k in savings and now we're down to 20. What the frick? I was so mad and I knew that if I said anything it would have ended badly. So I just walked away. How do you waste 40k in 4 months? We haven't even been completely jobless, it's just been slightly less than usual for most of it. Side note, I do have a few ideas where the money went. Large donations to their church, trips all over the country, expensive food, my parents are just living the good life. I think my mum realized that she had messed up by telling me this, because she immediately went out and got ingredients to make my favorite food in time for lunch. I'm convinced this is just another control tactic to keep me in line, because I have a history of not wanting to be controlled. This one is going to backfire on them big time. Once I get a new job, I plan to quit on the spot due to the hostile work environment. After that, I'm taking a long break from them. Probably years, if not longer. I can't wait to see the looks on their faces. Thank you all for taking the time to listen, and I'm sorry if anything is confusing, I'm just angry and had to vent. Since people are asking, my dad and I are IP illustrators, working with law firms to make drawings so they can be trademarked. This job requires connections and very expensive computer programs. So as much as I would love to make a competing company, I just don't have the resources. Whew, so basically, run. It seems like you already know that your parents are exploitative monsters who are prepared to work you to the bone in order to live a good life for themselves. Maybe a long time ago they might have been able to claim that they deserve their income, but it really seems like they're treating you terribly in order to thrive themselves. If your salary is such a burden, take it off them and leave. I don't think any of us would blame you or call you the villain of the story. I just hope the job market is good for someone like you. I have literally no idea. And maybe sneak a copy of the client contact details so that if things start to get better for you, you can strike out on your own and take all the clients you impressed while working for your parents' company with you. I froze my psycho neighbor out of her apartment. In college, my two friends and I decided to find a place together off campus. We found a beautiful 3-bedroom house with surprisingly affordable rent. The basement of the house was listed as a separate apartment, but as it had a separate entrance and the indoor stairwell had been blocked off, we weren't too worried, and the thermostat was upstairs. Then the demon neighbor moved in. From upstairs, we could hear everything. This adult woman would call her mother and scream at her to pay for her cell phone bills and give her, quote, grocery money, which tended to go to Taco Bell and cheap tequila. She'd scream at whatever guy she was sleeping with to bring her crystal, and one day she brought home 3 puppies to scream at as well. We were terrified of this woman, and the noise was hell. Also, we'd been idiotic enough to sign a lease stating we were responsible for all utilities, period, meaning we were now financing her gas, water, and electric. But with only 2 months left on the lease, we thought we could just ride it out. But then she started smoking, constantly. According to the landlord, she had quit for good when she signed the lease. But for good only lasted 2 days. Since it was winter, the heat was running nearly 24/7, and the smoke was wafting up from the vents. Our apartment and all our belongings began to reek with smoke. We contacted the landlord because we had signed for a bloody non-smoking apartment. He told us we lived in a state where you could technically call an apartment non-smoking, even if it shared ventilation with a smoking apartment. Frick you, leasing laws. At this point, my 2 roommates were heading out for a 2-week vacation. They were online students while I was residential, leaving me alone in the apartment with the demon smoker in the basement. I couldn't sleep or eat because my idiotic stomach decided to react to all the secondhand smoke by aching and cramping constantly. After 3 days, I was a little insane. I made a plan. I checked the forecast, lows in the 20s all week. I borrowed a friend's ultra-insulated sleeping bag. I bought one of those ski masks with the holes for your eyes and mouth. I got out my stocking cap, my silk long undies, my woolen socks, and my down parka. I bought tea, hot cocoa, and ramen, and prepared to live off a diet of hot liquids. And I turned off the fricking heat. On day 1, she's screaming at her mother for forcing her to move into this frozen crap hole of an apartment. Day 2, she's screaming at her boyfriend/crystal dealer because he won't let her move in with him. Day 3, she's screaming at the landlord about how she's fricking freezing. Day 4, the landlord is at my door. I greet him in full ski mask and parka and stocking cap array, looking like I'm heading out to rob Santa Claus at the North Pole. He asks me if I don't find it a little chilly in the house. I reply I'd found all the cigarette smoke a little warm for my liking. On the 5th day, she's screaming about the B words upstairs to anyone who'll listen. And I'm sitting upstairs clutching my car keys and my pepper spray with 911 typed into my phone. She finally decides she's fricking leaving and moving in with Greg, even though he just got out for stabbing Travis and he lives in that fricking creepy house in the woods with all those jerk biting dogs. On day 6, she was gone. I silently bless Greg. Moral of the story, there's a reason why the rent seems too good to be true. For those wondering, I did have a plumber friend stop by to give me some advice on how low I could go before I burst the water pipes to heck and back. Wow, not a jerk, madam. We'll at least do the bare minimum of hoping that crazy downstairs crystal woman didn't actually get stabbed by Greg. Oh wait, and that her puppies are okay. Alright, whether or not the author is a jerk might depend on the fates of the puppies, guys. I know that that's kind of out of their control, but I think knowing that my actions had even passively doomed 3 doggos would torment me to my dying days. Thoughts and prayers for the poochies. Crystal Lady, not so much. Landlord can suck an eggplant too. Great thinking, awesome perseverance, you deserve the win. Thanks for listening. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.